Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Roxanne subconsciously glanced at Lucian. He nodded at her. She completely relaxed after receiving his affirmation. Then, she shared the result of their initial discussion earlier. This is my 2 cents. Damaris Group provided us with the medicinal herbs and distribution channel for this collaboration. However, technology-wise, the credits belong almost entirely to the Research Institute. I can even say that the Research Institute is the real owner of this core technology in developing this new medicine. For this reason, and considering our experiences working together with other groups, the profit should be divided into a 20-80 split. Our Research Institute will take the larger portion of the earnings. She was the person in charge of the Research Institute, after all. Although Roxanne wasn't sufficiently familiar with that aspect, she still commanded an extraordinary presence. A hint of admiration glinted in Lucian's eyes as he listened to her speech and took in her serious demeanor. On the other hand, Jack thought his ears were playing tricks on him. He forced himself to keep up his elegant facade. Excuse me. I didn't hear you clearly. Miss Jarvis, you were saying. She reiterated calmly, the Research Institute will take 80% of the profit from the sales of this medicine, while Damaris Group owns the remaining 20%. Jack couldn't help but chuckle. Are you kidding me, Miss Jarvis? Is that all the profit you're willing to share with us after Damaris Group contributed so much to this project? Roxanne's eyes shone with determination. The Damaris family is a century-old prestigious family in the traditional medicine business, so you must be well aware of the rules in the pharmaceutical field. In fact, coming up with the core technology is the most important part of medical research and development. In the context of contribution, I'm confident our Research Institute poured in much more effort than Damaris Group. Jack turned to glance at Lucian and swiftly wrapped his mind around the situation. Evidently, that was the result of their discussion earlier. You're such a humorous person, Miss Jarvis. I came up with the idea in the first place. Besides, Damaris Group had been providing the medicinal herbs used by the Research Institution for free. Now that you've invented the medicine, you're turning your back on us, letting us take only a small part of the profit. If that's the case, I'm afraid Damaris Group will have to cease this collaboration with you. His face darkened, and his tone was filled with the indifference of a businessman. Jack's reaction was within their anticipation. Roxanne spoke in a gentler manner after sensing his fury. Naturally, Damaris Group's cooperation is crucial in the success of inventing this medicine. If you aren't satisfied with my initial offer, I can proffer you another 5%, totaling Damaris Group's profit margin to 25%. That is the maximum extent of my sincerity. He sneered out loud. Aren't you generous, Miss Jarvis, offering me another 5% without hesitation? Do you think I'll agree to this? She replied, there's nothing I can do if you aren't willing to accept the deal. I will compensate Damaris Group with 3 times the market price for all the medicinal herbs you have provided the Research Institute. As for the distribution channel, I'll figure out an alternative. She was implying her readiness to end their collaboration as Jack had suggested. Jack laughed in exasperation. There isn't any price on the market that can match the demand for the Damaris family's medicinal herbs, as the herbs are only available for the Damaris family's internal use. I think you're oversimplifying this matter, Miss Jarvis. Roxanne frowned. In that case, you can proffer a price you think is fair, and I'll accept it without any objection. She felt a little uneasy after saying that, as Jack might very likely make a significant demand on the division of profit following her statement. I think you haven't gotten a clear picture of the circumstances, Mr. Damaris, Lucian piped up. At the same time, he slightly leaned his body in Roxanne and Jack's direction while shifting his cold gaze onto Jack. Roxanne is equipped with the technology, while the medicinal herbs provided by the Damaris family were only used to produce 1 batch of medicine. If you aren't satisfied with the profit division, that's fine. The financial gain from this batch of medicine manufactured using the medicinal herbs contributed by the Damaris family can be split according to your wish. Still, the Research Institute also has the right to only sign the contract with you for this batch of medicine only. At that point, Lucian talked slower. And that means after this batch of medicines is completely sold, Roxanne can still look for another medicinal herb supplier to collaborate with her because she has the manufacturing technology. But what about Damaris Group? Are you able to find another research institute that can produce this medicine? His words blatantly expressed the research institute's dominance in that deal with Damaris Group. In short, Damaris Group wasn't Roxanne's only choice. In comparison, Damaris Group could only rely on Roxanne to produce the medicine. Hence, the research institute should have been the leading party in that cooperation from the beginning. As for Damaris Group, it became Jack's decision whether to choose a long-term, steady yield or a high amount of short-term profit. Jack didn't expect Lucian to make that move. He met the latter's eyes impassively while speaking to Roxanne. "Miss Jarvis, are you sure you wish to discuss the terms of this collaboration with Damaris Group on a pure business paradigm? In your opinion, is Damaris Group just an existence you can toss aside after you achieve your goal?" She glanced at Lucian and he nodded at her. Subsequently, Roxanne braced herself and pursed her lips in silence, considering that a response to Jack's question. Lucian uttered righteously, "There are no friends when doing business. You should understand that concept better than Roxanne, Mr. Damaris. Profit division has always been the most crucial and demanding battle in the business field. Aren't you attempting to appeal to Roxanne's emotions with friendship and unscrupulously forcing her to concede now?" Jack's negotiating skills were significantly inferior to Lucian's. As a result, Jack's face became contorted in anger. A long silence later, he said stiffly, "I cannot accept this profit division arrangement." Lucian chimed in, "Perhaps I should let you see the profit division arrangement used by Farwell Group when we are in control of the technological aspect of a deal. Maybe you'll feel contented with the current offer after seeing the numbers." In other words, if Lucian were to take charge of the profit division matter entirely, the Damaris family's financial gain would only be reduced further. The friendly facade on Jack's countenance completely dissipated as he stared at them grimly. If you can accept my offer, we'll sign the agreement now. If you aren't, our research institute is willing to hire a professional third party to evaluate Damaris Group's contributions in the early phase and compensate you at 10 times the price." Roxanne nudged the agreement toward him. Without taking one look at the contract, Jack tore it in half and tossed it back on the table. Roxanne was taken aback by his reaction. In the past, Jack had always shown his gentlemanly side to her. Not to mention, he was the heir to a prestigious family in the traditional medicine business, so she was under the assumption he would prioritize keeping up a polite and gentle appearance. Little did she anticipate he would do something as impulsive as that. The atmosphere inside the office abruptly turned tense. Jack said, "If I remember correctly, we agreed to share the patent and split the profit equally when we first decided to work together on this project. Now that you're casually altering the terms, I don't think there is room for further discussion." Roxanne replied with a frown, "You've also mentioned you would allow me access to medical books as a reference. I agreed to share the patent because of that. However, I didn't see any related medical book from you, and I ended up inventing this technology on my own. Naturally, I have no reason to share the patent with you." Jack was stumped for words upon hearing that. A short pause later, he stood up from the couch and said, If that's the case, there's nothing left for us to discuss." After saying that, Jack turned around and strode out of the office, slamming the door shut behind him. Roxanne's eyes were filled with shock as the thunderous boom rang in her ears. Did that startle you?" Lucian said while walking to her side. Upon hearing his voice, Roxanne gradually returned to her senses and said in an emotional voice, "I'm fine. I just did not expect to see that side of Jack." Roxanne's response made Lucian's admiration for her grow. The man wrapped an arm around her shoulders and pulled her into his arms. Letting out a sigh, Roxanne said, "Are all businessmen that two-faced?" Lucian stroked her back reassuringly and replied, "Would you be scared if I'm like that too?" Roxanne fell silent while trying to imagine the tactics that Lucian would employ in the business arena. After a while, it dawned on her that she already knew Lucian's way of doing things like the back of her hand and had long accepted it. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised at all." Roxanne smiled. Lucian did not seem pleased with that answer. Is that really who you think I am?" he asked. Roxanne pulled away from his embrace and met his eyes before explaining, "I just think you were very attractive when you analyzed the situation for me just now. It felt like your true self. If not for Lucian's ruthless ways and sharp business acumen, the Farwell family wouldn't be enjoying their current success." However, not only was Roxanne not afraid, but she was also hoping to learn from Lucian. Besides, what shocked her most about Jack was the savage way in which he tore apart the agreement and the vehemence of his reaction. She trusted that Lucian would never act in the same way. After hearing the woman's heartfelt praise for him, Lucian pulled her toward him and planted a gentle kiss on the back of her hand. "I think you're really adorable when you're being serious," he said in a deep voice. Roxanne smiled faintly and continued to express her true thoughts. Actually, I was quite scared that Jack would turn violent when he was ripping up the agreement just now, but when I remembered that you're also here, I didn't feel that scared anymore." Looking at the woman with a deep gaze, Lucian promised solemnly, "I will always protect you." The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Seconds later, Roxanne started feeling troubled over the discussion with Jack earlier that had gone south. "I have already made a compromise, but it seemed like that was still not enough for the Damaris family. It's highly likely that they wouldn't want to proceed with the collaboration. It would be a problem for the Research Institute if that were really the case." Moreover, Roxanne had started doubting herself after Jack's questioning earlier. With a sense of unease, she asked Lucian nervously, "Did I really burn bridges by doing what I did just now?" But it was Jack who had come up with the idea previously. The man stroked Roxanne's head and said reassuringly, "The two of you had never agreed on that. It's clear that Jack had wanted to take advantage of you right from the start. Otherwise, he wouldn't have suggested an equal split of profits in the first place. It was a standard practice in the industry that the party who owned the technology would hold the majority share. It was impossible for Jack to be unaware of it. He had simply intended to exploit Roxanne, knowing that she was inexperienced in the area. After hearing that, Roxanne finally knew how clueless she was. With understanding dawning on her, she said, "So that means he might be trying to obtain confidential information when he stepped past me and tried to establish rapport with the employees previously." Roxanne could not help but feel relieved at that realization. She was glad that she had kept her guard up against Jack the whole time. Also, luckily, I had asked for your advice earlier. Otherwise, it's very likely that I would have fallen into Jack's trap." The woman flashed a grateful smile at Lucian, who could not be happier that she had finally seen Jack's true colors. "As you can consult me anytime you want. I won't charge you for it," Lucian said with a suggestive look in his eyes. A blush spread across Roxanne's cheeks when she realized what he meant, and she pushed him away at once. Looking at the woman's shy expression, Lucian smiled. Not wanting to embarrass her further, he changed the topic to something more serious. It could be a good thing if Damaris Group really decides not to go ahead with the collaboration. Although it's true that their herbs are of a higher quality than what the others have in the market right now, those are, after all, still normal herbs without any special medicinal properties. Even without the Damaris family, the Research Institute can still acquire good quality herbs at a higher price from other medicinal herb companies to manufacture the drug. That way, the issue regarding the supply of herbs would be solved. The moment Lucian started discussing serious matters, Roxanne breathed a sigh of relief and listened attentively. As for sales channels, that's even less of a problem. Most medicinal herb companies have online sales platforms and a regular customer base. As long as you have a good product, people would naturally buy it. If you are still worried, I can get Farwell Group's technology department to build a specialized online medical sales platform for you. Roxanne was moved upon hearing that. It was well known that Farwell Group's technology team was one of the best in the world. Roxanne felt that it would be a waste of talent to get them to create the sales platform for her. She smiled at Lucian appreciatively and replied, got it. If Damaris Group refuses to accept our proposal, I will just look for another company to collaborate with. Lucian spoke again after that. However, if the collaboration with the Damaris family fails, all the hard work that you've put into establishing a good relationship with them might go to waste. Taking a pause, he continued in a solemn tone. I know that the reason you started joining those medical consultations was because of your interest in the Damaris family's ancient medical arts. If your relationship with them falls apart, all your efforts would come to naught. At the mention of her original intention for approaching the Damaris family, Roxanne fell into a slight daze. But before that, I've always thought that their intentions were pure and that they truly cared about advancing medical treatment and care for patients. She had just recognized that the Damaris family was not as altruistic as she had thought in the face of profit. In fact, their business was way more commercialized than she had expected. Rubbing the back of Roxanne's hand, Lucian said casually, if you think it's a pity, you can always make a further compromise. You would just be making less money. You can treat it as paying tuition fees to the Damaris family. Just let me know if you need extra funding for the research. Even though Roxanne was still feeling upset over the fact that the Damaris family was not who she had imagined them to be, she could not help but be amused by the man's words.
What do you take ML for?
I'm indeed very curious about the Damaris family's ancient medical arts, but I've also found out that their medical skills are not omnipotent in this period of time. Truth is, all of us possess different capabilities. If I really don't get to learn from them, I can further advance my own skills, which might be even better. Roxanne looked up at Lucian and continued with a serious expression. Besides, I'm responsible for the benefits of the staff at the Research Institute. I have to make sure that they get what they deserve for their hard work and not shortchange them because of my personal motives. After another round of discussions, both of them decided that they could give in more. Roxanne then sent Jack a message, indicating to him that she was willing to give up 3% more. If Damaris Group found it unacceptable, they would have no choice but to cancel the collaboration. However, she didn't receive a response despite waiting for a long time. Since it was noon and there was nothing much to do, Lucian decided to take Roxanne out for lunch. Seemingly to make up for the disappointment last time, Lucian made reservations for Horrington's best restaurant, where he ordered the couple's set on purpose. Upon their arrival, both of them were ushered to their table by 2 members of the staff. Sir, I'm sorry, but we have run out of the drinks for the couple's set. May I know if you would like to switch to a different one or have a refund? The waitress asked upon confirming their orders. Roxanne was surprised to learn that Lucian had ordered the couple's set. She hadn't expected him to do something as childish as that. Nonetheless, Lucian handed her the menu with an emotionless face. Why don't you choose your own drink? Feel free to order more food, as I don't think the food included in the set is enough. Roxanne was too shy to maintain eye contact with him, so she pretended to calmly skim through the menu upon receiving it. The waitress couldn't help but comment, both of you look like a good match. You must have a wonderful relationship. While Lucian simply smiled in response, the embarrassed Roxanne kept her head down in silence. When the waitress saw their reaction, a sudden realization struck her. Oh my God, it's Mr. Farwell and his ex-wife. They were the talk of the internet some time ago. Both of them look so much better in real life compared to their photos. Mr. Farwell is so handsome when he smiles, while his ex-wife is such a gentle person. And here they are, ordering a couple's menu. If it wasn't for Aubrey Pearson, both of them wouldn't have divorced all those years ago. I'm done ordering. Oblivious to what was going through the waitress' mind, Roxanne broke into a friendly smile when she saw the strange look on the former's face. After taking the menu back in her hands, The waitress tried hard to maintain her composure as she turned around in awe. The ex-wife is so elegant and dazzling when she smiles. I'm surprised that someone so stunning actually exists. Roxanne felt a little strange when she noticed the waitress walking away awkwardly. Nevertheless, she didn't think much of it as she turned her attention to Lucian. Weren't we supposed to have a casual lunch? Why? Lucian's eyes glistened with affection. I didn't really know where to go, but after checking Instagram, I decided to take you here since this place seems to be popular with couples. Roxanne was touched by the look in his eyes. Even though their children had grown up, she was still mesmerized by the man she was staring at. It felt just like how she had fallen in love with him the very first time. It's my fault that we missed out a lot 6 years ago. I want to try my best to make it up to you. In a deep voice, Lucian explained, even though I promised to pursue you again earlier, the amount of effort I've put in was pathetic. Come to think of it now, the reason you refused my marriage proposal might be because of my inadequate actions. Therefore, all I can do now is work harder. As Roxanne's eyes sparkled at his words, she felt the sudden urge to correct him. However, after giving it some thought, she figured that the real reason she rejected the marriage proposal was obvious to both of them. Cognizant that Lucian was just saying all that to excuse his behavior, Roxanne didn't expose him. During lunch, Lucian worked hard to prove himself. He kept showering Roxanne with cringy sweet nothings, causing her to relish in the attention while feeling embarrassed at the same time. Once they were done with their food, the waitress brought them some desserts. These are on the house. We wish both of you a long and loving relationship. Seeing that, Roxanne thanked her. Out of coincidence, there were 3 portions of the desserts. I wonder what the children are doing right now.
Essi loves tiramisu.
Roxanne couldn't help but think of her 3 kids. Lucian replied, they're probably having their afternoon break right now. If you're worried about them, we can drop by the kindergarten to check and bring them these desserts. The thought of being able to see the children filled Roxanne with delight. You took the words out of my mouth. With that, both of them got the service staff to pack the desserts before heading off to the kindergarten. As they had given Pippa advance notice, they arrived to see her entering the break room with the children in tow. Daddy, Mommy. Although the 3 kids were thrilled to see their parents, they kept their voices down in consideration of the other children who were napping. Smiling at the sight of the children, Roxanne took her leave from Pippa before bringing the children back to their car. Mommy, what brings you here? Estella's eyes lit up the moment she saw the tiramisu. As Roxanne opened it up for her attentively, she gave the latter's hair a tousle. While we were out having lunch, the restaurant gave us these complimentary desserts. We decided to bring them to you since these are your favorite. Once you've finished, you can go back to your nap. Meanwhile, Lucian had unpacked the desserts for Archie and Benny. Then, the 3 children wolfed the tiramisu down happily. After giving Roxanne and Lucian a look each, Benny narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. You have a good eye, Daddy. The cake is delicious. Lucian cocked a brow slightly. We'll buy it more often since you like it so much. Thanks, Daddy. Benny expressed his gratitude in his childish voice. As both of them chatted happily, Roxanne didn't even get the chance to join in. Do you still have any classes in the afternoon? Lucian asked despite knowing the answer. His father's intention wasn't lost upon Archie. There's a group activity in the afternoon which Ms. Ward says that we can't miss. Clueless as to where Lucian was going with the question, Roxanne was about to inquire when the former lamented, I wanted to take all of you to the movies. But now, it's a shame you have an activity to attend instead. His words jolted Roxanne into wondering if she had made a mistake. Since when did I agree to go to the movies with him? I have to. She planned to return to the office in the afternoon. With a face brimming with anticipation, Estella gave Roxanne's sleeve a tug. Mommy, I want some new clothes. Remember to get me some. Faced with Estella's twinkling eyes, Roxanne couldn't bring herself to say no. Daddy, Archie's and my computers need upgrading too. Benny's eyes glistened mischievously as he seized upon the opportunity to commit daylight robbery. Lucian couldn't help but smile. I know. I won't forget your presents. Thereafter, the children gave Roxanne looks that brimmed with anticipation. Roxanne was left with no choice but to agree. Remember to watch yourselves during the event. There will be no presents for you if you get hurt. Her agreement filled the children with jubilation. After the children finished their desserts, Roxanne led them back into the kindergarten. When she returned to the car and saw Lucian's nonchalant expression, she couldn't resist asking, "Since when did I agree to go to the movies with you in the afternoon?" Throwing her a glance, Lucian replied matter-of-factly, "I'm sorry that I took the liberty to decide on your behalf. Otherwise, you wouldn't have agreed." Having her exact thoughts read, Roxanne averted her gaze. She could roughly guess that from Lucian's perspective, the entire day was meant to be a date. However, it just felt too sudden for her. When she didn't say anything in reply, Lucian's eyes darkened. "We can watch it another day if you're upset about it. As for the children's gifts, I'll get them in the afternoon." Detecting the disappointment in his voice, Roxanne quickly shook her head with a smile. It's not that. I just thought that I should have dressed up for the occasion." No sooner had the words left her mouth than Lucian gave her an affectionate look. That's not necessary. You always look gorgeous to me." His romantic words caused Roxanne's cheeks to blush. "Even the waitress couldn't stop gawking at you earlier," Lucian teased as he started driving. Roxanne retorted, "You're the one she was ogling at. I didn't even put on any makeup today." On working days, she would wear little to no makeup and dress as simply as possible. If it wasn't for Lucian, she would probably not be allowed into the restaurant earlier. In response to her complaint, Lucian teased her back, "Are you jealous, Miss Jarvis?" Looking out the window, Roxanne caught her breath when she heard the words. When she remained silent, the smiling Lucian stopped pulling her leg and continued driving instead. The movie is in the evening, so let's go shopping for the children's gifts first." Roxanne nodded in agreement. After parking their car, both of them took the elevator into the mall. As they walked into the building, Roxanne couldn't help but recall how Lucian coaxed her into buying matching outfits together with Estella the last time. Just as Lucian was about to get her opinion about something, he noticed the distracted look on her face and asked, "What's on your mind?" Regaining her senses, Roxanne broke into a melancholic smile. "The last time we were here, Essie and I bought matching outfits. Back then, I was aware of your relationship with her, and Essie wanted a mother. However, I didn't tell her about it because I assumed that you had abandoned her. All I could do was help her fulfill her wish, and fortunately, you were kind enough to play along." Lucian spoke in a regretful tone as he finished her sentence candidly. The mention of Estella's history triggered a sense of sorrow in Roxanne. "There's no way I could ever cast her aside. Throughout the years, I've been yearning for her even in my dreams." Furrowing her brows, she raised her gaze to look at Lucian. I wonder who it was that was so cruel to break us, mother and daughter, apart. This same person caused me to believe that Essie died the day she was born." When he saw the pain and hatred in Roxanne's eyes, Lucian pulled her into his embrace as he consoled her. "I was under the wrong impression all this while. Now that I know the truth, I'll do my best to find that person." Finally, Roxanne managed to calm down when she sensed Lucian's steady breath. "If I knew this place would remind you of the past, I would have brought you to a different mall." Lucian's eyes brimmed with regret. Once Roxanne calmed down, she slowly came out of his embrace while wearing a smile. "I was just a little sad, but I'm fine now. Now that Essie and I have been reunited, I'll make up for everything that I failed to give her." Nodding slightly, Lucian grabbed her hand and clasped her fingers so tightly that she couldn't leave. "I'll double my efforts in making it up to all of you." The conviction in his eyes moved Roxanne and broadened the smile on her face. As there was still time to spare before the movie, both of them went window shopping level by level. When they arrived at the entrance of a men's boutique, Roxanne stopped subconsciously when she saw the outfits inside. Noticing that it was a men's boutique upon trailing her gaze, Lucian suddenly felt upset. Who are you buying them for? I know all the men in her life, while I'm standing right beside her. So, who is she intending to buy an outfit for? As his voice jolted her back to her senses, Roxanne turned to look at him. The moment their eyes met, Lucian saw bliss gradually take over the regret in her eyes. Moved by the sight, he felt a growing sense of affection melt away his initial displeasure. With a slight curl to her lips, Roxanne explained softly, Do you know that 6 years ago, I would imagine you wearing those clothes each time I pass by a men's boutique while shopping? Roxanne gushed like a schoolgirl when she brought the matter up. Throwing the mannequin in the shop window a glance, she spoke confidently. I feel that you'll look better than the mannequin in that outfit. Watching how Roxanne was reminiscing about the past, Lucian suddenly felt as if he was lost in time, causing him to tighten his grip on her hand. Stung by the sudden pain, Roxanne knitted her brows quizzically. Just when she was about to ask Lucian what happened, he dragged her inside the boutique. Hello, how may I help you? Feel free to let me know what you're looking for, and I'll do my best to provide recommendations. When the sales attendant saw the distinguished couple walk in, she welcomed them warmly. Realizing that Lucian was holding her hand tightly in public, the embarrassed Roxanne tried to struggle free, but the former would have none of it. You have a good figure, so there's no need to be particular about the cut. These are our most popular designs this season. You're welcome to try them on if you like. The sales attendant showed off the outfits politely. However, Lucian turned to Roxanne and asked in a deep voice, Which one do you want me to try? His words briefly stunned the sales attendant. Holding her tongue prudently, she walked to Roxanne's side upon learning who the decision-maker was. You're really blessed to have a husband who takes your fashion advice. It's clear that you have a keen eye for both men and clothes alike. The sales attendant's flattery naturally pleased Lucian. As for Roxanne, she was still lost in a daze. Is Lucian trying to make it up to me because of what I said earlier? She had no doubt he would keep his word, but was still surprised by the granularity of his actions, where a casual yet melancholic mention elicited a response from him. Bring me what the mannequins are wearing in my size. I want to try them. Lucian answered on the tongue-tied Roxanne's behalf. Only then did Roxanne return to her senses. The sales attendant smiled and said, I don't think that's necessary. You have the same figure as the mannequin. If you don't mind, you can just try on those clothes. In response, Lucian turned around to seek Roxanne's opinion as though he were seeking his wife's approval. Seeing that, the sales attendant followed suit and waited for Roxanne's response respectfully. Roxanne only realized what was going on seconds later. When she did, she flashed a faint smile and nodded. The sales attendant then quickly went to fetch the clothes and ask another sales attendant to bring Lucian to the fitting room before leading Roxanne to browse the rest of the outfits in the store. As they were browsing, the sales attendant introduced all the premium suits to Roxanne and paid attention to the time Roxanne took to inspect each suit. Soon, Lucian came walking out of the fitting room in a gray shirt and a black suit. Needless to say, he looked dashing. Before he even checked himself out in the mirror, he went straight to Roxanne and asked, how does this look? Does it suit me? At that moment, Roxanne was still browsing around with the sales attendant. She then turned around the second she heard Lucian's voice. At that very second, Roxanne was mesmerized. Although it has been so many years, it seems like Lucian hasn't changed one bit. In fact, he looks even more attractive now. I can't take my eyes off him. Is it not as good as you expected it to be? With a frown and a helpless expression on his face, Lucian turned around to ask the staff to bring him something else. Only then did Roxanne snap back to her senses and praised with a smile. You look even more handsome than I imagined. The clothes suit you. The sales attendant next to her chimed in, sir, the suit fits you like a glove. Upon getting praised by Roxanne, Lucian nodded in satisfaction and said to the staff, please wrap this up. I'm going to try on the others. In other words, he wanted to try on all the clothes the sales attendant had brought over to him. Are you going on a shopping spree? Roxanne was surprised by those words. Lucian's closet is filled to the brim. Why is he buying so many? Didn't you say you wanted to see me in these? I'll try on all of them, Lucian answered matter-of-factly. Roxanne merely stared at the person in front of her blankly because she was so touched that she was at a loss for words. The sales attendant then brought a few more suits forward and said to Lucian, when I was browsing with your lady just now, she seemed to have an interest in these few pieces. Roxanne turned toward the sales attendant when she heard that. Well, those few pieces really caught my attention just now. I didn't say anything though, did I? How did the sales attendant know? Roxanne then frowned and protested. I want to buy them for you, though. Upon noticing Roxanne's confusion, the sales attendant smiled sweetly and uttered, you spent more time looking at these few pieces just now. As soon as those words fell, Lucian spoke before Roxanne could respond. He said, you're a talented salesperson. With that, Lucian nodded at the staff and said, please wrap all of these up. Realizing that they were dealing with a big customer, the two sales attendants were over the moon. However, they kept their emotions to themselves. Roxanne couldn't help but feel troubled when she saw the bags of clothes. Lucian saw the odd look on her face and asked caringly, what's the matter? Don't you like them? Roxanne shook her head and approached him before whispering awkwardly, all these clothes are beyond my budget. In response, Lucian lifted his brow in confusion. As soon as he figured out what she meant, he smiled and replied, these clothes are mine. Why would I want you to pay? Roxanne then frowned and protested, I want to buy them for you, though. Just as she finished talking, Roxanne turned to cast the sales attendant nearby an embarrassed glance. Naturally, the sales attendant heard what Roxanne said, but she merely smiled politely at her without saying a word. Lucian had an affectionate look in his eyes when he saw Roxanne getting anxious. A few moments later, the staff approached them with the wrapped-up clothes. Lucian took the bags and said to Roxanne, I'll pay for these. You'll just have to pay for the suit I'm wearing, Roxanne. With that, he smiled and waited for Roxanne's reply. 6 years ago, Roxanne regretted not buying clothes for Lucian. Since he was giving her a chance to make it up to him, she readily agreed. Lucian wanted to continue trying on the other clothes, but Roxanne immediately stopped him. That's enough. Roxanne then glanced at the sales attendant embarrassingly before whispering, you'll still have to wear the ones in the bags. We can check them out by then. Lucian seemed dissatisfied after not being able to try on the clothes for Roxanne there and then. He only nodded after plunging into silent contemplation for a moment. The couple then went to the counter. After exiting the men's boutique, Lucian wanted to take Roxanne to shop for her clothes. You've already bought so many for me. Roxanne rejected his offer hastily. I don't know when did Lucian shop for me, but when I arrived at the Farwell residence, half of the clothes in the closet happened to be mine. Those clothes are new, and they seem expensive. Roxanne was accustomed to performing experiments in her white coat. Hence, she wasn't used to wearing colorful and fancy clothes. I don't need that many. I only need a couple of gowns in the closet, she said. In response, Lucian hugged her from behind and whispered into her ear, you don't need much now, but I think you're going to need more as Mrs. Farwell. It was safe to say that Lucian could only use gifts to make up for the damage he had done 6 years ago. Also, that was the only way he could show the public his love for Roxanne. Furthermore, having her wear all the clothes he bought for her was a way to show the world she was his woman. Sensing his insistence, Roxanne couldn't bring herself to refuse him again. I've only worn a few pieces of clothing in the closet. If he were to buy me more, it would really be a waste of money. Lucian held her hand and brought her upstairs to shop for her clothes without leaving her any room for argument. Comparably, it was a lot easier when it came to buying clothes for Roxanne. Lucian merely glanced at the clothing in the store and made his decision decisively. He didn't even need Roxanne to try on the clothes he picked out for her. Instead, he told the staff to wrap up all the new arrivals and send them to his car. Since they still had time on their hands, they continued shopping for the kids. It was easy to shop for Archie and Benny. Again, Lucian bought the latest Apple and added on all sorts of accessories. Estella's clothes, on the other hand, were handpicked by Roxanne. Initially, Lucian thought it would be enough to buy Estella a couple of pieces of clothing. However, Roxanne felt she needed to make it up to Estella for those years she missed out on her life. Since I can buy things for her now, I should do whatever needs to be done to make her happy. Besides, Essie would have fewer clothes than me if we were to only buy a couple of pieces for her. How could I let that happen?
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.